Oh, it's been 2 days of travel and a bunch of trespassing and scrambling and figuring out how to get up here, and I'm finally nearly there. And it's just amazing to think that for over 100,000 years, other people, human beings, have been using the same approach path up to this massive cathedral of a shelter where they lived, learned, imagined. I stared out at this beautiful view. I'm about to see it. Nearly there. So what a trip that was. What a trip that was. So I've got this passion and love for visiting archeological sites, unique archeological sites within Africa, sites that showcase the sort of incredible breadth of human history on the continent, especially within southern Africa. And there's one specific site that I've always wanted to visit ever since I heard about it, and it's called the Diepkloof Rock Shelter. This shelter is about 2 hours up the west coast from Cape Town, up the western coast of South Africa. And it's this shelter that's sort of perched up on a hill, this big sort of monolith of a koppie. And within this shelter, the archaeologists have found evidence of human occupation going back 100,000 years, maybe even 110,000 years. That's long before human beings had even left Africa to populate the rest of the globe. And they've unearthed some of the most amazing discoveries, like very advanced stone tool blades that show kind of a technological leap forward. They've found ostrich eggshell engravings, and that was dated to like 70,000 years ago. And that's sort of double the amount of time that we've discovered sort of any form of kind of symbolic artistic work. But basically knowing, I know some of the history of the shelter, but I didn't know where it was. I didn't have no clue of who owned the site, who had access to the site, and I just sort of I had a spare weekend, and on a whim I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go up, drive up the coast and see if I can explore this site. All I had was a GPS coordinate, and I just tapped it into my phone and I drove straight to the GPS coordinate, and it took me along the highway, and then sort of as you go inland to the coast there was another road going off the highway. I've just gone off the tar road. I'm trying to follow this sort of general direction up to where I think the shelter is, but I don't know if I'm on private land or if this is a public road. It seems to be up there somewhere. I think that's kind of the general direction, up towards that ridge there. Okay, I've come to what I think is the end of the line. It does say a sign there saying 4x4 only, so my car is 2x4. I don't know if I should risk that. This car obviously did risk it and ended up never leaving. Take it nice and slow, hope for the best. So just looking at the GPS, it says that is the ridge, that is the shelter over there. So there's the ridge. The beautiful ridge, it's just perched up there. Very sort of sentinel-like. You can see it somewhere that people would congregate. But I don't know if it's on private land or not, because there's this farmhouse right here with fencing. There's no private property signs. There's a road going up through the valley there. I don't want to drive any further along there because then I'll probably get stuck in the sand. And there's a fence here on my right with an electrified sort of base below the shelter. There it is. I saw this incredible profile, a human profile on the side of the mountain that just looked like something that I think ancient people would have noticed themselves and maybe added to the attractiveness of the site. It just had, I don't know, I can't really describe it, but certain places just have this amazing feeling, this gravity, this magnanimity. And this site really did have, I mean, just from a distance, it just had that power. You could just see that it's somewhere that people would gravitate towards. And I was gravitating towards it. Just before I left, thinking maybe I'll come back the next day, I decided, okay, I'm just going to go and knock on the farmer's door and see if if he can tell me something about the site. So I found a farm worker, and he called this man Hein, and I had a chat to him. Just was very honest. I said I was a writer, filmmaker, and I really would love to visit the site. And he was a little apprehensive to start off with, but then we warmed to each other, and he said, you know what, you're welcome to go up and spend as long as you want up there. So the next day, I woke up early, drove to the site, parked my car, and then I walked on up. And I had a whole bunch of camera gear on me and stuff. Oh, good morning. There it is. I'm making my way up with a lot of equipment. It's quite a long way. It's a beautiful morning. It's almost cathedral-like. I don't know if you can quite see the scale of it, but it just looks like this massive monolith. These birds flying around it, echoes coming down. Just absolutely remarkable spot. And it's just amazing to think that for over 100,000 years, other people, human beings, have been using the same approach path up to this massive cathedral of a shelter where they lived, learned, imagined. I stared out at this beautiful view, and I'm about to see it. Nearly there. First approach. I think this is the first part of the shelter. This is the first time I'm seeing it. You can already see some rock paintings there. Beautiful rock paintings, wow. What are those? Incredible stuff already. There's a giraffe there. Looks like a hippo. Antelope. Is that a lion? That looks like a lion to me. Look at that. I'm sure that's a lion. Or a buffalo. Ah, very cool. Seems to be a second part of the cavern here. All these birds flying around. Maybe this is the main section. Oh, here we go. Look at that. This is the main excavation site. There's like 20 years of excavations have gone on here. Numerous excavations. You can see the bean bags. There's a temporary hut here. Look at this. Super cool. One of the oldest human dwellings, known human dwellings in the world. 110,000, maybe 120,000 years of occupation. 120,000 years. Look at that. Look at that view looking over the Flay. a spot. You guys have left equipment here. Must have been quite an experience excavating this site. This archeological equipment, hats, chairs, hard hats there. Glasses. What a spot. What an amazing spot. Look at that. You can see the layers. That's fascinating. Among the bean bags, these bean bags are used to hold up the sides of the walls whilst they dig down. And then you can see the different time zones, the layers representing certain periods. It goes all the way up from there. And they've marked it down, 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 and back in time, back in time, back in time, back in time, back in time. You know, there's still so much we don't understand about human history. And I'm talking ancient human history. I'm talking about human origins, the origins of our species. Broadly, we know we emerged in Africa. They found some sort of early anatomically modern skulls that look like ours in East Africa around 200,000 years ago. And then we understand through genetic sequencing that human beings left Africa around 60,000 years ago to explore the rest of the world, to explore the rest of Africa and kind of emerge as us, as humanity as it is today. What happened between 200,000 years ago and 60,000 years ago that resulted in the sudden explosion of exploration and imagination and technological advancement that resulted in, you know, humanity exploring the rest of the earth, populating the rest of the earth, creating technology that now is sending us off into space and to Mars and, you know, exploring the cosmos. What was it that happened in that period of time within Africa that resulted in this great leap forward? So trying to understand this gap in humanity is the great question that scientists are trying to answer. And it's sites like Diepkloof Shelter, the sites like where I visited, that hints at some of the answers to that question. So 70,000 years ago, there were a group of people sitting here creating ostrich eggshell containers and etching symbols along the sides of these containers. And I mean, that sounds like quite a sort of rudimentary task or rudimentary discovery, but actually no one's really found anything like it anywhere else in the world. Even in Africa, there are very few places where symbolically relevant artifacts have been discovered. 70,000 years ago, there were people here making art, exploring their imagination. And that's just fascinating. So you can see here, this looks a bit like a hippo. I'm sure there were hippos in this flay here, in this wetland, for many years. And then this looks like a giraffe over here. There. This looks like a lion to me, but it might be a buffalo. But very beautiful paintings, beautiful animals. Eland are the most sacred of animals for the San. They're the water animal, the rain bringers. So they are coveted as animals, and you see a lot of eland art, eland depictions all over South Africa. It's a very sort of sacred animal for the San. The San people, who are the ones who probably made these paintings and who lived here for a lot of the time. But I mean, San culture goes back like 25,000 years, or that we know of. But before that, were they San people? What were they? Another culture? Between 25,000 and 110,000 years, which is how long people have been living in this shelter, that's a big time gap. What kind of cultures emerged, came and went and fell? What did they know? What did they learn? What special skills did they have? What could we learn from them? I mean, these are all questions that still need to be answered. And there's a lot of the puzzle that still needs to be put together. But it's archaeologists who are working at shelters like this and who have worked at shelters like this for so many years that are working so hard to kind of put it all together. So that's why it's very important not to touch anything while I'm here. I must, I think there's still a lot of digging to be done here, and it's very much a live site, so I'm obviously going to be very careful. So it's an amazing privilege to be here at such an ancient archaeological wonder, and it really is a wonder. And I think there's a couple people working to make this a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So before too long, it's going to be very well known, and I'm sure at some point a tourist attraction. But for now, it's just a beautiful, quiet, calm, sacred cathedral, and a place that we still have a lot to learn from. So let's keep exploring. Time to say goodbye. To be able to experience what I think is one of the most important scientific sites in the world in terms of understanding this lost history of our species. It's sites like this that really provide important pieces in that puzzle, and it was just amazing to be able to be there and appreciate the aura and the magnanimity and the wonder of this cave.